Beefcake number 9.
What's up?
The title of the blog is Why All the Running?
Why all the running?
Why all the running? You want to know why?
Yeah.
I'll tell you why. I had a friend of mine who is not athletic, didn't play sports growing up, doesn't have any interest in sports, was just making conversation, really.
Mm-hmm.
And he asked me, why sports? Growing up, why sports? Why competition? And on to now, why fitness? Why running? This guy is, doesn't have any issues with weight or anything like that. He's just wondering why somebody would put themselves through that.
Okay.
And I don't think that's uncommon it's not uncommon for runners or weightlifters or CrossFitters to be asked, why do you want to do that to yourself?
Right.
And at the time I didn't really think a whole lot about it, but once we broke apart and I was laying in bed that night, it just kept going through my mind on why I actually, got into sports in the first place.
Right.
And it was interesting to go back to being young and the way that sports have always made me feel. And the long short of it is that my life in my head moves very, very fast. I stay pretty balled up. I stay pretty nervous and anxious, and I often feel, indecisive. I play out these different scenarios. Every question, I can't quite get to a final answer because I have to look at it from all these different angles, and I just make the simplest tasks very difficult.
Okay.
Learning's always been hard for me. I'm not slow, but I am a slow learner. And when I get inside a classroom, I feel suffocated and I feel out of place. Even the way that my clothes fit on my body can give me an extreme amount of anxiety. I don't know what that would be called. I don't know if that's, ADD. I don't know if it's autism. And it's not important to me. It doesn't make any difference because it just is. And when people try to teach me or help me, a lot of times I view that as a threat. And I just feel like, that your typical educational environment is not conducive to my learning. I often feel like I feel like that my brain can only take in so much. And if I exceed that level of data storage, then it's just going to corrupt my file and I'm going to just turn into a vegetable. I honestly feel that way. So sometimes Amanda and I will be sitting in sign language class and it's 2 hours and I'll feel like I got a good hour of it. And then we start into the second hour. And once we get towards the end, I've got anxiety that this has to end because if I try to learn something else, then my brain's going to explode. Mm-hmm. But when I get out on the field of play, then everything slows down. It all becomes more easy for me to grasp. I know the rules. I know the worst case scenarios. I know the best case scenarios. There's winning. There's losing. There's a few rules in between. And with that comes a great amount of peace for me. That transfers over into running and lifting and all those things where when I get to a trail or when I get to a gym, I know that there's a few rules here and there, and then there's a worst case scenario and there's a best case scenario. And everything within that space is manageable for me. And I think that's where I find my love for it.
Yeah, I was going to say it sounds like you enjoy it though.
Absolutely.
Like my son's started playing football this year, and I think that's why I never played football and never ended up being really super good at sports, is because there's a lot, like when you play football, like he's got these plays he's got to remember and all these things. Like it seems very stressful to me, but I think because you enjoyed it, you don't mind learning those things.
Yeah, and I feel like that those plays that's what you need to know. Whereas in the real world, there's an infinite amount of things that you need to know. And so that overwhelms me. But when I'm on a football field, I know either step right or step left. Do this or do that. If this happens, that happens. And if this happens, that happens.
Yeah.
And that's easy for me to swallow. And so when I'm on a sports field, it's like taking a Valium. Everything just loosens up, and I feel more at home.
I feel that way when I run.
And when I was a kid, I can remember loving when a game started. I knew that I had an hour to play it,
Right.
or 4 quarters, or whatever it was. And I would go out there just with the best feeling that this is about to happen. Sure, there was nerves and all that sort of thing, but I loved knowing that I had 4 quarters. And then after halftime, my anxiety would start building and building and building as the fourth quarter drew closer and closer to the end, because I knew that real life was about to hit me again.
Oh, yeah.
I think that could be, why I went from high school athletics to a life of drugs and alcohol, because the drugs and alcohol gave me the same thing that playing sports did. And then fortunately, recovery from drugs and alcohol have given me back sports and trail running and weightlifting and CrossFit and all the fitness that comes with that.
Well, because it makes you feel good.
It makes me feel good, and it envelops me.
And the drugs made you feel good.
That's
and
right.
Then when you didn't have that anymore, you went looking for something else that made you feel good, and you found it.
And fortunately, this is probably more sustainable and probably a bit more healthy.
Yeah, for sure. I see that in myself. I really have gotten to where I enjoy running and training and just not worrying about the results and not worrying about why I'm doing it. For instance, I've been trying to just go run as much as possible for 30 minutes every day. And I don't care about how fast I'm running. I don't care about anything. I like the way it makes me feel. When I start my morning that way, like I feel like I'm meditating in a way. Does that make sense? It makes me feel like all the stress is gone. It makes me feel good. I'm just on autopilot, and I can think about whatever I want. I just can let my mind wander, and I can just go for 30 minutes, and it feels good.
And you're present during that 30 minutes.
Right. Yeah.
Only now matters. That's all that you can focus on is right now.
Right.
And I think that was the next point that I was going to make, is that I'm not a good athlete. I've never been a good athlete. I've been surrounded by some really good athletes, so I've had some success as far as winning teams and the people around me helping me advance towards having the appearance of being probably more athletic than I am. But I'm not a good athlete, and I'm not a top runner. I'm very much a bottom tier runner, and I'm a bottom to mid-level lifter. But that's not what's important to me. And that's a lot of the reason why I got into lift heavy, run long, is because I want people to understand that there's a place for that.
Right.
And there's a need for those people. Like, I think that some people don't get into fitness because they're just too afraid to start. Because they remember not being picked first in gym class, and they remember not being good at basketball, and they remember, all these terrible things in regards to themselves and their athleticism. And I think that a lot of people find when they get out there that it's not near as dark or scary as they kind of made it out to be in their own head.
Right. No question. I mean, I think that applies to not just fitness. It applies to lots of different things where getting started for people is the hardest part about everything.
What about the people that have started? Do you come in being a coach and a trainer? Do you come across people who exercise for the sake of relieving stress and making themselves a better person? However, they get so involved in their goals that it causes them more stress and probably more heartache than it does.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Most definitely. I mean, people set such high standards for themselves, and they usually set themselves up for failure with these outrageous goals, and then they feel like to reach these goals they have to do as much work as possible. You know what I mean? Like, oh, I can't take I can't take this day off because I have to do X, Y, and Z, or I'm never gonna be able to go to the CrossFit Games, you know. And so they can't listen to their coach, and they can't do what they're told to do because they have these expectations that are so high for themselves that nobody enjoys. They don't enjoy just being able to be there and be able to do the work that they're assigned to do. You know, they have to do more.
Yeah, I think that goals are important, and I think that they're good to have, but I think that making that goal your identity, and, you know, however far away from that goal that you are, feeling like that's however less of a person you are.
Right.
And I'm guilty of that. I've done that. I've used exercise as something to help benefit me and make me a better person. All the while, I'm just worked up, stressed out, and not happy with myself because of the goals that I haven't accomplished.
Yeah. I mean, I see people a lot like that are, you know, tell them they did a good job. Man, that 400-pound deadlift, that's really good. Yeah, but it's just 400 pounds.
But. I'm as guilty as anybody about that. And that comes down to being gracious. And that's something that's learned and is difficult for me, is just someone paying a compliment and then learning to say thank you.
Right.
You know, if someone says, "Hey man, you look great. You look like you've lost some weight." "Yeah, man, but I'm still fat." Or, "Yeah, man, but I still got another 20 pounds. That's hard.
Right.
It's hard just to say thank you. I appreciate you saying that.
And letting yourself enjoy that.
Yeah, accepting that grace.
I think people feel guilty sometimes about that, which is odd.
But I have to remember, sometimes, rarely is it about me. I have to let that person enjoy paying me the compliment as much as I enjoy receiving the compliment. And the compliment may not have anything to do with me. It may be that person wants to feel better about themselves and wants to say something nice. And if that's the case, I need to be aware of that and be gracious of the person paying that compliment.
Yeah, and even on the flip side of that, it can be hard for the person paying the compliment. Sometimes it's awkward or at least for me, it kind of feels awkward sometimes to be like, "Hey, that was really awesome what you did."
It is.
Because sometimes
it's hard to give praise.
Yeah, because sometimes you feel like this is going to sound like a total cheese ball if I say something about that, you know.
The risk of sounding like a cheese ball probably causes more compliments not to be paid than anything in the world.
Yeah.
I'm going to sound stupid. I don't want to embarrass myself. And who has ever received a compliment and been like, "That guy's a cheese ball"?
Right. What an idiot.
That has never happened. No one has ever been paid a compliment only to say, "What a cheese ball."
Yeah. I hate that guy. He's always complimenting me.
I've never gotten a text message where somebody says, "Hey, man, I love you. I'm thinking about you. I hope you have a great day." And then me respond with,
"Hey,
you're a cheesy douche."
Yeah, you go shove it up your ass.
Don't text me anymore. What do you find more peace in, running or lifting?
Running.
What's your greatest stress reliever?
Running.
Trail running or road running?
Trail.
Is it more important for you to be good at your sport, or just that you're able to compete and enjoy the sport?
So it is important to me to continue getting better. Personally, I want to be as strong as I can possibly be, and I want to continue to lower my run times as much as I can. And as long as I can increase the both of those or maintain the both of those, I'm in great shape. It makes me feel good.
I don't really have any expectations of myself because I don't follow any sort of plan or any of your typical, here's how to be a better runner and here's how to be a better lifter. I think that I know how to be a better runner and better lifter. I just don't want to do those things. And I think that that's fine as long as I'm accepting of where I am.
Right.
And my expectations are so low. And that's not low, but my expectations are low, but not the level of them.
Right.
I think that my expectations are just to be appreciative that I'm healthy enough to get out there and move around.
Yeah. I mean, as long as you're happy, whatever keeps you happy, that's good. Like if you don't have to go run marathons, you don't have to go run a 30-minute 5K. If that's not your thing, if you don't want to do it, you don't have to do it. Like if you're happy at home sitting on the couch and that's what you want to do, fine.
That's right. I think that's the ultimate goal. That's how you ultimately set your goal is, are you happy?
Right.
And if you can say, yes, I'm happy with where I am and the direction I'm going, then you're in first place.
Yeah. But then if you find yourself at a point where you're like, you catch yourself complaining because you can't run a 50-minute 10K or whatever it is, or you can't lift 400 pounds off the ground, and you're like, man, I wish I could do that. Well,
then it becomes essential to do something different.
Then you got to change things up. You were happy with the way things were before. Now you found something that'll make you happier. So now you got to work towards that and do what you're supposed to do to get to that goal.
Reevaluate and set some new goals.
Yeah.
And setting new goals, watch how I segue into this. This is great. Speaking of setting new goals.
Speaking of it.
You need to check out the Lift Heavy, Run Long deadlift program that Vaughn has formed for us.
Boom.
That stuff is awesome, man.
That was a great segue.
Wasn't that good?
Yeah. And it is awesome.
And the program's awesome.
Yep. It's just 3 days a week lifting.
I was totally impressed, man. When you threw that at me, I was totally impressed.
Cool.
Having a set program like that is not very time consuming. It doesn't take up a great deal of time.
Right.
It's straightforward. You did videos showing you how to do the movements.
Right.
And describing what the different movements are.
Yeah.
And you give a weekly rundown of what you're going to be doing during the week. And you also offer, communication through email or phone, whatever it's called. Yeah, you're open.
I'm open.
You're open to coach and
That's right.
be available and answer any questions and, form relationships and build connections and get stronger.
Right on.
That's what it's all about, man.
Yep,
I'm
yep.
excited to see how well that program takes off. And
Me too.
If my hunch is correct, I think that a lot of people will enjoy your program.
It's going to be awesome.
So congratulations.
Thank you.
Y'all have a great day. We're out of here.
Later.